Season 2. First of all, this is when the mystery begins to really come together and is presented very strangely in the first episode. Here we learn that while Stan is aware of the journals, and while hinted at before, we get total confirmation that he's aware of the dangerous supernatural nature of the town, he was not the author. Probably. He talks about them like they're the journals, not his journals. You know what I mean? I have a little issue with the Stan side of the plot in this episode. It's a great opening to the ending of the mysteries. The supernatural stuff has begun to infect the twins' closest family, they have begun to lose any kind of safety or normalcy, and Stan has been given a better role to take part in the supernatural episodes. I love all that a lot. But the way it's presented in this episode, and this episode alone, is just so casual. Like, Stan just says it. But it's done in a situation, a zombie apocalypse, in case you're wondering, sorry I haven't gotten to that bit yet, where Dipper can't grill him for lying and Mabel can't lose her trust in him. I'm very aware that does happen later, but watching it, you don't know that you just haven't gotten to that episode later in the show. It's weird that the reaction is like 10 episodes away. I only broke my continuity rule there so no one leaves a comment about it. That's my little piece about us and the twins learning how important Stan is to something, the mystery shout, the journals, to everything. This episode, divorced from that, is really, really good. It keeps the narrative momentum going with federal agents coming to investigate the town and Stan reveals, while also making it clear that the show isn't going to be in the end of the world mode forever, with some great jokes like zombie Soos and the new agent characters. This episode strikes that perfect balance of everything. The art and acting can still get me invested into the zombies as a real threat, the segment of the twins being cornered and running up the stairs away from the zombies, and Stan stays down the stairs with knuckle dusters on, while the only lights are disco party lights, is some of the best animation from this show, probably the best. I don't want to say that it was exhilarating because it's a Disney kids show, but that's what it was. It was exhilarating, that scene. While I ragged on the Stan plot earlier, his very real love of his grandkids is shown so well here. Sacrificing himself for the twins, yeah, but there's a moment near that where he explains that the only reason he lied was to protect them. Dipper learns something new about the journals, that they use invisible ink, and Stan is given just a second to admire Dipper. Near the end, they both agree to always tell the truth, but they secretly cross their fingers, both of them. I'd imagine they both think that they know how to protect their family better, Dipper through control and understanding, and Stan through avoidance and leaving well enough alone. Also, Mabel is there. I mean, Soos has a more important role than her in this episode. It's especially weird here because Dipper summoned the dead to prove magic is real to the agent guys at Mabel's party, putting her friends in danger, and she warned him against it. She could have been way more on Stan's side. There's only one line the whole episode of her confronting him about how arrogant he can get. She should have really chewed him out for nearly getting all of her friends killed. This episode, if nothing else, is brave. It's very brave to reveal the author, have Dipper's whole meeting him scene, and then say that that wasn't him and was in fact a shapeshifter. So this episode takes all the good characters, guest starring Wendy, to explore the woods, to find any trace of the author or another journal or something, just anything. In the journal, they found evidence that he could be hiding in a tree. Wendy uses her lumberjack skills to open the tree and it reveals a big underground bunker. And then disaster strikes. The opening hinted at it, but when Mabel starts talking, it gets confirmed. After putting an end to it multiple times, the Wendy and Dipper relationship plot is back. Brilliant. In the bunker, Mabel finds Dipper's draft and scripts of him declaring his love to Wendy, and she full-on locks them into a decontamination chamber. After a puzzle-lock room that nearly killed them all, she just shoves them into another room, locks him in, and hopes everything is fine. The conditions of release by Warden Mabel are Dipper has to ask Wendy out. From here, the story really splits. Instead of admitting his love, Dipper leads Wendy into a connected cave system with broken specimen tubes, fresh trash, and a whole bunch of creepy stuff. Mabel and Soos just kind of hang out and do some good, but just jokes. Like, they don't do anything more than that for a while. Dipper and Wendy get chased by a monster and then get saved by the author of the journals. I'll just get straight to it. From this point, the episode, the interesting ideas they've set up don't really go anywhere. Mabel and Soos are in control of the facility. Dipper and Wendy have just met the journal author, and there's a shape-shifting monster on the loose who turns out to be the author. Nothing comes from that setup. Mabel and Soos just kind of leave and go into the tunnels while Dipper and Wendy figure out the shapeshifter instantly. They all meet up and just conventionally fight the monster, freezing it in the tubes. The shapeshifter takes on some cool forms, but it ends in a I don't know which one to shoot trope, which I hate. I think the fact that the only way Dipper can tell Wendy apart from a lifeless husk that is a leech is that one symbol of her zipping her lips from the inconveniencing. That is it. That is her personality. She could climb the tree so fast at the start because she did lumberjack school, off screen. She feels no fear or mistrust learning about shapeshifters. Something that is basically a big germ can replicate her so well after knowing her for 3 seconds, and the only reason it didn't replace her was because of a generic super common symbol it basically could have guessed if it was lucky. After they defeat the shapeshifter, everyone leaves. Back on the surface, we get the one good Wendy moment where she, obviously speaking slowly and thinking about each word she says, tries to let Dipper down easy, but firmly enough so that this stops happening. Please. I hope that it isn't just another fake ending to this relationship and it's actually done now. Dipper loves the cool girl for no other reason than she is a cool girl. Nothing else has been done so to death like this relationship. Wendy isn't getting a character section dedicated to her because this was it. The relationship is all she exists for, and it's a real shame that one of the main cast members was sacrificed for it. You could replace Wendy with a cardboard cutout on a shelf that Dipper's too short to reach, and it would be just as good. I'm so glad that Pacifica is back. It's always a pleasure to have her. I want to get everything aside from the main plot out of the way first. The comedy for the whole episode and with every character is just so on point. There's a lot of new locations that all look really good, and it's a really cool original idea. Okay, so into it. Mabel and Dipper are playing mini golf. Mabel was the best ever back at home and has a decent bit of self-worth riding on it. Pacifica shows up and wants to prove that she's actually the best, but can't due to weather. So the twins and Pacifica agree to have a secret game, there at midnight. When Pacifica arrives, there's a moment with her parents in the car where they say that her last name and her being part of the family rides on her always winning. But they also have more important things to do than support their daughter, so she's left alone with a personal trainer. It is extraordinarily refreshing to see how well Mabel and Stan get along. It's been a while, but he's so supportive and encouraging, and it's these little moments that really get me to care about Stan. Mabel and Dipper get there early to practice and discover, just out of nowhere, it's such a big shock, that the golf park is inhabited by little golf ball people called Lilliputians. They control the ball in all of the windmills and spinning bridges and everything you see in mini-golf. They all have an ongoing feud about which group of Lilliputians are the best at controlling the ball. The windmill guys, castle, cannon guys, pirate guys, French guys, miner guys. Did I already say cowboy guys? So we have the Lilliputians, all of their self-worth into definitively knowing who's better at mini-golf, and then Mabel and Pacifica doing the same. The twins strike a deal that if the Lilliputians help them cheat, then they'll decide who's the best. Obviously this goes way off the rails with the golf ball people killing themselves and then escalating to them wanting to slaughter Pacifica, and then her trainer, and then Mabel herself. It is a really fun, crazy progression. Mabel and Pacifica set aside her differences to save everyone and to not be dead. They fight the evil golf balls and stands there to pick them up after a mass killing. Pacifica confuses sharing with handouts, and we get a few moments of humanity with her. It's interesting, I think, how quickly Pacifica gave up on golfing and actually just was nice to the twins. Not chummy or anything, but still very real progress. It's almost like it wasn't golf she enjoyed, but winning, or perhaps it was attention. If winning was the only way she ever got attention from her parents, I believe that she'd love it. The episode is almost like a setup for a future story, but on its own, it's very nice. I love a good Mabel-centric episode, and I really enjoy her arc of forgiving Pacifica for kind of being the worst ever. I love all of Mabel's revenge fantasies. A Mabel fantasy segment will always be the best part of any episode. It's really nice to see the positive sides of Mabel. It's far too easy for her to be the antagonist to Dipper's story, but this episode was a great showing of her kindness and empathy. She even apologizes and admits that she herself is not the best. I think when their guards are down, they both admit that violence only breeds violence. Another really, really good episode. Mabel has a one-off romance and Dipper has to sacrifice a bunch of stuff for it. This is the best, not the only good, but definitely the only great version of it. Dipper and Mabel are trying to guess the password for a laptop they stole from the author's hideout in that fake tree. When Mabel gets distracted by a puppet show, falling head over heels for the puppeteer, he has a ponytail, rides roller skates, and always wears and talks to his puppets. How dreamy. Mabel intends to throw her own puppet show, and as he gets more and more demanding, the puppet show gets more and more out of control as it takes over the entire house, and then Dipper is asked to help and give up stuff like the journal. But the really important part comes when Big Papa Bill Cipher shows up and tries to strike a deal with Dipper. I'll do a bit of yapping about this, but first, I want to say that I absolutely love that each time Bill shows up, it's implied that Dipper was already sleeping, him waking up or Bill taking control and waking up. It really goes a long way to keep Bill's powers consistent. He can get into people's head through sleep, and if the host gives them permission, he can take physical form in their body. It's so much better than having a powerful villain that can kind of just do whatever, and you're always wondering, why don't they just kill them instantly, at distance, with their magic? It's one of the great aspects of Bill's cipher. Another being the way he takes full advantage of Gravity Falls being a hand-drawn medium, with him flipping the frame and appearing or disappearing from impossible places. Along with his ability to summon and control anything in the dreamscape, it keeps him from becoming predictable or boring, but still believable. I want my own screaming head, to be honest. In one of the best moments, Bill takes full control of Dipper's dream the instant he falls asleep, to make it seem like he's still awake and that the laptop is about to permanently delete all of his information, forcing Dipper to make the deal, to give Bill one of the puppets in exchange for the password. Bill's puppet would, of course, be Dipper himself. Dipper is pushed into the dreamscape where Bill lives. Bill follows Mabel to the puppet show in Dipper's body. Dipper, in the dreamscape, has to chase them and try to save everyone while being invisible, silent, and intangible. Perhaps the episode isn't flawless. My little issue is that Dipper just kind of puts on a puppet and can talk and move and be seen, but only the puppet? You're seeing the screen right now, you know what I mean. This really comes out of nowhere, since Bill's whole motivation was that he couldn't just do that, and all the tension was based on Dipper also not being able to do that. And then he just does it on the first try. Anyway, Dipper finds Mabel and fills her in on the situation. She puts him in charge of the puppet show, which is ripe for jokes, as she runs away to try and find the journal before Bill. He catches her right as she gets to it. Dipper's body is mad dripped out. He looks crazy in the suit, and he dangles her off of the roof. He calls her out for being selfish and even says that he's given so much and she hasn't stopped taking. So why change now? How well this puppet show goes is now up to him. He could ruin it if she doesn't hand over the journal. He could kill her if she doesn't hand over the journal. But Mabel, looking out for her brother, she forces them both to fall and destroy the puppet show, and then fight Bill Dipper by using that puberty torch she got last season. He then complains about his sweating, awkwardness, and ticklishness. After Bill is pushed out of Dipper's body, Dipper can re-enter. Bill disappears, making threats again. The town hated the puppet show, and the puppeteer guy walks off kissing his own puppets. I like this episode a lot, since both twins have to give up things to help each other, and Bill very accurately pulls at their character flaws, and Mabel actually acknowledges her wrongdoings and fixes them. The narrative and characters of this episode are so perfect. Sock Opera is just one of my favorite episodes. Soos buys a game to help him learn how to date. The twins also try to help him by pushing him into situations with women, and he actually meets a girl he likes, and she likes him too. It's very sweet. Soos deserves a nice episode about him actually just being happy. This episode portrays Zeus's sadness at the beginning very realistically. He sulks in his room, retreats to familiar places, and skips out on work. But then when he meets this digital girl, the happiness is also just as real. He's floaty and giggly, but also equally disconnected from his friends, family, and everyone else. When the twins try to get help, he gets on another downward spiral until he meets the real girl, and after that, it's all up from him. They hit it off quickly, he gets comfortable even faster, and nearing the end, the usual sappy ending where she's forced to leave for someone else, he doesn't skip a beat. They get right to a happy, healthy, long-distance relationship. This is the best romance of the entire show, and it's between a comedic relief character and a character that's been on screen for 2 seconds. Actually, it is a love triangle, and it's actually a very well written love triangle. It's just so stunning to see a story of this genre and quality in a show, where it's not the focus. Giffany is the digital girl in this episode, and I really like her. I just wish she had some more episodes, or even just more screen time in this episode to show off her character. Her creators accidentally let her evolve into sentience and then tried to kill her, and then living within a dating game, she's gotten a very skewed view of love. So in her world, it's very black and white. You're her boyfriend, more like a slave, or you're trying to kill her. She's killed her creators and every past user of the game, and now after possessing Five Nights at Freddy's guys, she's out and trying to kill Zeus's girlfriend and the twins, and then moves on to kill Zeus. She's a great villain, probably third best of the entire show, but this is her only appearance, and that really sucks. Overall, it's a super funny episode with gorgeous art, again, more gorgeous pixel art, and a shockingly well-written romance plot. Imagine a show that had Dipper and Wendy in it, also having a brilliantly written love triangle. I could not have imagined that last season. Another anthology that's probably not even canon at all. Just gonna do this one real quick. The hand story is messy and all over the place with lengthy non sequiturs. The Smart Good one feels very contrived. Then the stop motion story. It's stop motion, so I love that aspect of it. It has some very impressive animation and a few good jokes, but even then, how are you meant to tell a Gravity Falls level story in 3 to 4 minutes? At least it actually has a good lesson at the end. I like the stop motion one a lot. I just wish it was the whole episode. This episode has a really amazing opening that sets the scene. Lazy Susan sees gnomes, she calls the police, and then gets abducted by the titular Society of the Blind Eye, an Illuminati-style group created by someone to help people sleep at night after seeing the things that makes the bumps in the night. Or like, eats your car or something. They go around and erase the memories of themselves, magic things, they just destroy people's brains to live in happy ignorance. I'd imagine that this was meant to explain why characters don't bring up old events and people don't go into a Lovecraftian craze. Finding his name on one of the pieces of the smashed up author computer, the twins believe that Old Man McGucket could have been the author, but soon learn that he can't remember anything. So there's the obvious connection, most likely from the Society's actions. Assembling the A-team of Dipper, Mabel, McGucket, Zeus, and Wendy, they all trace the Society to a museum and learn about them as they sneak into their lair. Some antics occur and we get to rewatch all of McGucket's memories. He wasn't the author, but he worked with them and was the founder of the Society. His broken mind is from overusing the memory eraser because he just couldn't live what he and the author had done, whatever those things were. The crew, with Mabel reflecting on bad relationships, McGucket on his own past, and Wendy having a song stuck in her head because she really is just that surface level, agree that bad memories are just as important as the good ones. And for the last time, use the memory eraser on the Society, so no one but the main cast know about it. This is a little questionable, since one of the members has seemingly been in the Society his whole life, and when he's zapped, he's basically just non-sentient. They, killed him, right? That person no longer exists, and if it really did erase everything, then it wasn't his choice to be in a cult. You don't join a cult at the age of 0 by choice. This episode plays with the mystery of the author much better than the Shapeshifter episode, to the point where it actually fooled me my first time watching it. A plot twist in a Disney show twisted me around and broke my ankles. McGucket has become one of the best characters of the entire show in just one episode. The way that this show displays his fictional magical dementia is really sad. the way he gets mocked, ignored, and abused because of it, and then we find out he did it to himself out of desperation to sleep at night, that's really, really, really sad. That's a depressing concept. And in terms of mystery, this is great, because Madoka doesn't just magically get his memory back, he gets to watch a few fragments with everyone else. So all we actually learn is why Madoka is so intelligent but crazy, and that he worked with the author. That's it. Just a few more loose threads added to our ball of yarn. It's so easy to fall deep into the mysteries of Gravity Falls. The pacing of the reveals is just perfect. It never feels vapid or overwhelming. It is the perfect mystery story. Blendin's game is a bit weird. It's Zeus's birthday, but he hates celebrating his birthday, and no one knows why. So the twins take him to laser tag, his favourite thing. But then Blendin Blandin shows up from the future with Lolfen Dungren, because he's invoked a trial by combat and other things to prove that the reason that the paradox happened weren't him and were the twins, which is very fair of him. The winner of the games will be guaranteed a time wish, and the other may or may not be killed. But before they can reach the arena, the twins escape and try to hide in Gravity Falls' not-so-distant past, when Wendy's a baby, in a scene more uncomfortable than you can imagine, and Zeus is just a kid, in a scene more charming than you can imagine. The twins realize that it's Zeus's birthday again in the past, but he won't celebrate it, because his father's only appearance was a letter, again, for what feels like the millionth time. His birthday was when he gave up hope of ever seeing his father again. Damn, I came to Zeus for a bit of lighthearted fun, not this. But that being said, I can't stop watching, and I'm just so invested in Zeus at this point. He's one of the best characters in the entire show. I kind of said that as a joke, but in terms of execution of an idea, Zeus is genuinely a perfect character at what he's trying to be. When he is levity, it's so easy to love and enjoy him. You get so invested in wanting to see him happy, and him having the ability to keep you smiling. But at the same time, he's a person, he's a real person that just misses his dad. It's so sad. So the twins intentionally turn themselves in to play the games and win a time wish to give Zeus the chance to see his father again. The twins win the games, give Blendin some cool hair, and make peace with him. Zeus is given the wish, and he wishes to heal the twins, and for a slice of never-ending pizza, but is just happy to have people that care about him so much in his life. He doesn't have to wish about anything. He has a wish for anything, but he has everything already. During the credit scene, we see the Mystery Shack's last handyman getting fired and Zeus being hired. We see the seeds of Zeus's father-son relationship with Stan beginning. What a strange concept turned into such a wonderful, beautiful episode. I wish I had more to say on Zeus, but he's one of the best comic reliefs ever, which makes him so likable. He has no malice or evil in his body, but he's given just enough depth to go from likable to lovable. And I'd say how dependent he is on his found family is equally a character flaw and a positive. When he's motivated to fight for and protect them, I just love Zeus so much. This episode deals with the ratio of happiness and freedom that a society attempts to balance. Yes, really, if you lost your sentience for eternal happiness, would you be okay with that? It does this via Mabel meeting a god and then playing matchmaker with the teenagers of Gravity Falls. What a concept. Mabel uses an actual love god's magic potion to make Robbie and Tambry fall in love to cure both of their depression. But this tears the group apart due to a big spider web of history and relationships. Mabel, with her new potion, could just give them each a little bit more, and while not themselves anymore, they would all be happy. Although, is it really them that is happy if it's only a smiling face and no sentience behind it? The show actually lands on the side of leaving a brain-controlled Robbie and Tambry alone, as they are with the brain control. I'm not saying I necessarily disagree, but it is interesting to see a show actually have an opinion on such a topic. I'd expect it to have a cop-out, like they reverse the magic but they're still in love anyway, meaning that Mabel did the right thing all along, but it really doesn't stick to its guns. It's so refreshing to see a show with an actual opinion that isn't just, being mean is bad, don't be mean, winners never be mean. The most appealing part of this episode, though, is the absolute onslaught of jokes. Stan and Soos make a hot air balloon to capitalize on a music festival. That is packed with jokes and great slapstick. Robbie's parents are hyper cheerful funeral workers, and they're an absolute delight. It's been a little while since we've seen Stan, and I'm glad he's basically getting a whole B-plot to himself. Another absolute banger. This is definitely top 5 episodes. Pacifica's family is about to throw a ball when they become victims to a ghost haunting. They're forced to call upon Dipper to solve the mystery since he's been making waves in the newspaper for solving stuff. Mabel and her friends desperately want to go to the ball, but they don't allow lower class people in, and Dipper doesn't get the appeal of the ball. If they don't want them there, and if they won't get any respect, what else could matter there? Pacifica shows up and Dipper just straight up says that he hates her and slams the door in her face. Mabel pressures him into hearing her out. He finally agrees on the condition that Mabel and her friends all get tickets to go. I'll just get the Mabel group out of the way again. Some of the last few women of Gravity Falls that aren't just relationships and nothing else unfortunately fall to the curse. Grenda is flirting with a guy all episode, but Candy and Mabel also want to flirt with him, and Grenda ends up getting with him by being herself. That's it. That's it. Nothing that's set up with that plot gets paid off this episode, or really ever. Dipper has to put on a suit to be allowed in, and he puts up with it and all of their rubbish to make his sister happy and look at a ghost. Pacifica and Dipper track down the ghost. They get haunted, chased, and chastised by the ghost. This episode is all about Pacifica and her family, though. We find out from the ghost that he was one of the lumberjacks from Gravity Falls' founding that had built that manor. But when the Northwests refused to let the town people in, a bunch of them died from mudslides in the wet season. The ghost was one of them. He said that exactly on this day, if the townspeople were not let in, he would bring his fury back from the grave. After they catch him, Pacifica gives Dipper a little hug and he leaves to dispose of the ghosts, really awkwardly. He's now told the story of the Northwest Manor, the greed and arrogance, while him and the ghosts are alone. Dipper relates to the ghost and marches back to the mansion and confronts the Northwests on it, and they make it clear that they knew, and that Dipper and his sister should enjoy their night there. It'll be the last time any common person sets foot in the house. Dipper chastises Pacifica for this, saying that she won't be any different, the same chain of evil with one more link. Pacifica begins to apologize when the episode gets really interesting. Her father pulls out a bell and rings it. She brings her arms together, falls silent, and looks at the floor. Instantly. Maybe she's not part of the chain by choice. This gives a very different tone to her being afraid of being kicked out of the family and rather fighting a ghost than stepping on her parents' favorite rug. She was genuinely scared of her parents. You don't get a child trained on just a bell. The bell is there to remind them of something else, usually something violent. After that, the ghost tricks Dipper into freeing him from the prison Dipper put him in. Dipper chases the ghost back to the mansion. The ghost breaks in and begins turning everyone there into actual wood, like dead person wood, like Mabel is dead wood. Dipper rushes in, and in a moment that certainly is a moment, he bolts in looking for Pacifica before checking on Mabel. Although I can understand that she's fresh on his mind and is the source for a lot of his complicated emotions right now, it's his sister that he just... Sure. He finds her in a room the ghost chased them through earlier, a room filled with records of a family backstabbing natives, having no value other than their money. A room-sized history book of every instance of cheating and lying that got them their wealth. Finally, Pacifica agrees her family is the worst, and very self-aware is afraid that it's already too late for her. She really just might be another link in the world's worst chain. Dipper makes it clear that she can undo their earliest evil by opening the gates to the town people. Dipper runs out to distract the ghost and gets turned into wood, like dead person wood, like both protagonists are dead at the moment. And, very clever, he looks exactly like the shapeshifter did when he tried to freak him out. Pacifica rushes to the door controls, slowly turning into wood as she gets closer. Her father demands she gets away from the door, ringing the bell. It makes her cringe and feel a deep fear. The bell stops her for a moment, but she quickly overcomes it. opening the mansion to the town and allowing the ghost and all of his magic to disappear. In a great moment, after Dipper and Pacifica have become a lot more friendly, she still says that she's going to be the best, but on her own terms. In a way, the best Pacifica, not the best Northwest. I really doubt that the townspeople were ever allowed back in after that night, but it's a really nice ending knowing that once Pacifica is in control of the estate, things might be different. Now, you may be thinking that after that amazing, heartbreaking episode, that Pacifica would basically be part of the main cast. Dipper's new love interest, or even better, an actual girlfriend. A solid and healthy relationship that went through real growth. But you'd be wrong. You'd be so wrong, it's unbelievable. She doesn't show up until the big finale, the end of the show, and it's basically a cameo. Dipper is back on the Wendy train the next time it comes up, nearing the finale. How did they fumble one of the best written characters like that? Pacifica, after one episode, is given a devastating backstory with realistic themes of abuse, psychologically and physically. She's put on the path of redemption after she realizes her own situation, and then just disappears. What a waste. Because of how her story ends, I can't even call her a well-written character. She's like if the perfect movie just cut to black at the end of Act 2. No, even if it was a 10 out of 10 up to that point, you probably, after realizing that there's no ending, would call it a bad movie. She is a pretty good antagonist for Mabel. Pacifica has every advantage, and it's up to everyone else to stick to their morals and not crush her too much. Unless you're Dipper, I guess, he doesn't care. She challenged people's egos and patience and every shred of dignity because of how effortless her success is and how relentlessly she advertises it. Like I said, she served as a Mabel antagonist very well for a long time, but the thing that didn't work 100% until the golf episode was that it was almost one-sided. Mabel views them as just kids, what they are. Maybe Pacifica has more money and friends or whatever, but they're both humans. Pacifica sees herself as a rich person and Mabel as a poor person, two different groups. The idea of them being two sides of a fight, an ideal to prove, something to be won, is only on Pacifica's end. Mabel always wants to help someone else, prove something to everyone or to stroke her ego, and then Pacifica gets caught in it. It can work, but does get one note. Dipper has a much more interesting relationship with Pacifica because they both see themselves as different groups. They both want to directly prove themselves better than the other. More mature, more powerful, just plain better. And then they both go on an arc about them realizing that they're not that different. This builds a way closer and more real feeling bond. We get to see how they react to the same situation, at the same time, and from the same perspective, but on different sides of the class feud. The previous episode is so impactful because the conflict felt the realest and impossible to solve. The early blooming of romance is again therefore so impactful because the way their characters are constructed, being only complete opposite or completely identical character traits. There are middle grounds and ways of relating one to the other, but also some things that are just impossible to agree upon. Anyway, Wendy has nothing in common with Dipper at all. Unlike Pacifica, Wendy's relationship with Dipper feels one-sided. So for example, Wendy is meant to be the action, active, Kim Possible style of badass cool girl, so they could have overlapping traits of wanting to protect the Mystery Shack and their found families. But then they could disagree and have arcs on finding the middle ground of acting before you know what you're doing and spending too long preparing. Or anything like that. I'm not saying that's the perfect idea, I'm saying anything is better than nothing. That's how the Pacifica relationship feels so real. They have overlapping traits that allow them to get along in some situations and build rapport, but some that in other situations makes them fight like animals. The relationship seems possible, then impossible, and it's such a relief and investing story when they finally begin to actually work out their differences. This style of relationship could also allow it to be interesting after they're officially a couple, still having situations where they're a total power couple, and others where they can't find the perfect solution. I quickly took a turn in the Wendy section there back into talking about Pacifica, but it does demonstrate something. The only thing I could say about Wendy had in common or opposite was fictional. I had to make up examples that would just kind of fit the character. Wendy not only has a vapid, empty relationship with Dipper, but with everyone. I think it's also worth mentioning how insanely in love Dipper is with Wendy. He steals Robbie's bikes, murders a bunch of sentient clones, nearly lets Momondo die, and a whole bunch of other kind of awful things, just to have some non-existent chance with Wendy. You'd think that for all this, Wendy would motivate him somehow, with some personality, with something. Her single character trait of being a girl is it. And that's bad for her, but it destroys Dipper's character as well. For him to meet a girl and within the week be ready to murder someone for her. What? How many times did he make? Like 15? Like 15 murders for someone who doesn't even give him the time of day? It makes Dipper seem like a complete... I don't know if there's a word to describe. I don't know what word I'm looking for. It makes Dipper seem awful. She has no character traits nor flaws. The romance drama with Dipper is so empty, boring, and occasionally absolutely dreadful. For the opposite reasons, the Pacifica's is so perfect. And just imagine if a character was a deck of cards, each card being a trait of the character, and a relationship, not necessarily romantic, but that is what we're talking about here, is shuffling two decks together. The aim of the writer is to have a single deck of cards be really interesting on its own, then shuffle it with another, and just have that one relationship deck be on a whole nother level. And both of the characters and relationship deck should be something close to a workable Magic or Pokemon or whatever game you like to play. With a theme to the cards and enough repeating cards to make it consistent, but enough different cards that still interact with the others to make it exciting and adaptable to the situation. It must be thematic, adaptable, and have either side synergized with the other. When Dipper and Pacifica's character decks got shuffled, it was an extraordinarily interesting deck, with both their large egos, different sections of intelligence and family wars creating conflict, and things like a cold logical Dipper and a cold emotional Pacifica could help them support each other, but also those character traits could become dangerous. There is so much you could do with their character traits all mixed up into one deck. If you shuffled Wendy and Dipper's decks, it'd be Dipper's deck with one extra card on it that says girl on it. That's why Wendy's not interesting, and it makes me so angry that Pacifica is immediately replaced with Wendy again. It's not interesting. Dipper and Wendy being partnered up is a McDonald's Pokemon booster pack of cards. Pacifica and Dipper is a house of cards that could fall apart at any second, but has just enough stability to keep the audience invested. Not What He Seems fills me with a dread and anxiousness that the show doesn't even come close to reaching, nor do many other shows. Gravity Falls is already a brilliant show, but this episode's quality feels just non-existent. A non-existent, flawless show, this would still be the best episode, distinctly. I'm so lucky to have 25 minutes of this non-existent, flawless show exist, just this one episode. The episode opens with the Pines family being back together for the first time in a long time. As Dipper and Mabel play outside, we get some good jokes and we get some time with Stan as he reminds us that summer is running out. Whatever he's involved with, whatever's happening in the town, is coming close to ending. It's a really nice reminder of how much these three characters genuinely care about each other. They all have such good chemistry and just enough differences for them to show their personalities in how they all go about things. The stress of the show being over is a great little trick they have, but the characters and the audience are both nearing the end of the story, very self-awarely. It helps to build the relationship between us and the characters very quickly, as we're feeling the exact same things. We're just going to get right into it. The government guys from the President's episode are back, and they're monitoring the giant machine that Stan has in the basement. They arrest Stan and take the kids away. We get a lot of people trying to convince the kids that it's Stan's fault, that he's responsible for some weird activity around the town, since, yeah, it is his giant machine creating gravity explosions and disrupting the town. Simultaneously, the kids and Stan both hatch escape plans from their prisons or confines. I guess the craftiness runs in the family. Stan uses the fact that the gravity bursts are rhythmic to beat up some government agents and escape their holding cell. He pays a cabbie to drive as fast as he can in the opposite direction, and Stan legs it back to the shack. Stan, on his way, calls Soos and tells him to defend the vending machine with his life. And Zeus's loyalty on full display? does just that. The twins have managed to trick Wendy's dad into road rage, hitting their car that they've been taken away in, making it crash. The agent who's stuck in the wreck gives them one last warning as they run back to the shack, that Stan isn't who they think, and that he's going to hurt them. And Dipper thinks about it, mulls over the fact that there's a possibility that all of this is real, but continues with his sister. Using Mabel's grappling hook, they sneak back into the top floor of the shack and make their way into Stan's office, looking for security tapes to prove that he's innocent. Not to prove it to themselves. They both still trust and love Stan. Dipper may have wavered, but he still believes him. It demonstrates how close their bond is, that all of these people could tell them one thing, but they as a family stand against it together. Mabel and Dipper, in easily the best scene of the entire show, finds the tapes, and for a moment can breathe easily because it looks like Stan is innocent, but it takes a quick turn as it's revealed that the agents were right the whole time. Stan was stealing everything they said, probably to be used exactly in the way they said. They scrambled to find more evidence and find a box under Stan's desk, and as a portrait of him peers down at them from above the desk, they find a massive amounts of fake IDs, license and passports, along with a newspaper that reads Stanley Pines is dead, and a criminal that looks exactly like who they thought was their grunkle is at large. After a well-deserved freak out and cope, find the secret code to the vending machine and open it like a door and get to the basement, leading to a semi-funny, semi-sad, it's more sad than anything, fight between the twins and Soos. After Soos sees that it opens, he realizes that it's not a vending machine and he trusts the twins. He follows them down to protect them, showing how seriously split he was having to fight them. He wanted to listen to Stan, but he couldn't hurt the twins. He still wants to protect everyone. I feel so bad for everyone in this episode. They go through some serious torment in the basement. In the basement, Mabel finds a picture of them on the main desk, reassuring her that whether Stan is Stan or not, he still loves them. But Dipper immediately sees the other two journals, snapping his trust. The three-way divide between Dipper, Mabel and Stan gets even bigger when Dipper finally puts all the journals together on the page about the big machine, and its only instructions are why it should never be built, and how to shut it down, resulting in the destruction of Earth if it's activated. The group walks out onto the floor of the machine and gets ready to shut it down. The camera is shaking, the music is loud, and the effects are purposely really overwhelming. With all of the emotion already being felt, the visuals and audio of this scene is just great at putting the audience in the same headspace as the main trio, struggling to think with anything more than a raw, unrecognized feeling of anxiety. Just as Dipper is bringing his hand down onto the button, Stan finally arrives to stop him, with Alex Hirsch's best line delivery. I love the way that everyone but Stan is in shadow, and separated by the machine's parts. He has become an outsider, and has lost the trust of even Soos in this moment. The machine releases just one more big gravity blast, so large it lifts cars and has a beautiful shot of the mystery shack being destroyed by it. It is so easy to cry throughout this whole ending scene. This is the first time Dipper really tears into Stan with real anger, bringing up everything he's done. Stan looks and sounds like Dipper's words, and being distrusted so much is about to make him cry. The animation is so good, and paired with how amazing the acting is and how stressful the episode has been, it's like ending with the opposite of levity. Instead of lightening the mood right at the end, like most Gravity Falls episodes, this subverted that formula by building and building and building and never stopping on this emotional idea. And replacing the breathing room we expect, this episode just hits us harder than it ever has before. Mabel is now the only person who's able to turn off the machine. Stan is floating towards her to beg her to stop, but is stopped by Soos and Dipper actually physically attacking Stan mid-air. This goes so far beyond any character interaction or emotion we've had in this show up to this point. It really does feel like the ending of The Family. Mabel's tears begin to flow up and into the portal above her face. Stan is thrown into a wall and he begs her to stop. He says that he loves them and the only thing he's ever cared about has been the family. Dipper asks her to use her logic as he would, but Stan asks her to look into her eyes and if she really thinks he's a bad guy, asking for her emotions as she usually would. Mabel says that she still trusts her grunkle and lets the machine complete its countdown, letting it activate.
I wanted to say that you're gonna hear some bad things about me, and some of them are true. But trust me, everything I've worked for, everything I care about, It's all for this family. Mabel, what if he's lying? This thing could destroy the universe. Listen to your head. Look into my eyes, Mabel. You really think I'm a bad guy? He's lying. Shut it down now. Mabel, please.
10, 9.
Uncle Stan,
6.
I trust you.
Mabel, are you crazy? We're all gonna...
1.
What? Who is that? The author of the journals. My brother.
Oh, dude, I still cry to this. And if you say you've never cried to this scene, then you haven't seen it, have you? This episode pushes Gravity Falls so far past its limit. Usually the story of an episode will push the characters a lot, right to the point of breaking and then stop, and then end with the joke. But here the characters are crying, begging, and attacking each other. There were boundaries. This was a family, and no matter what, they would come together, but not this time. After becoming so attached to such a well-fleshed-out group of characters, and having the reminder that summer was coming to an end, it really does feel like our time in this loving Gravity Falls is over. This episode should be shown to anyone who doesn't know what a panic attack feels like. It's a great simulator for it. Being so overwhelmed with emotions, shapes, lights, and sounds that it causes anxiety just as a natural response. And the fact that we have, depending on the scene, 2 to 4 characters feeling exactly how we do, but all wanting different things, help us to not pick a side and to really pay attention to the characterization. This episode opens on the 2 stands far in the past. They immediately and obviously mirror the relationship between the twins. Friendly, protective, but trusting, and even down to one being intelligent and less adventurous, while the other is emotionally driven, or being a bit more of a wild child. When we cut back to the current day, it's a bleak contrast, as they now physically fight each other. They insult each other, and the Dipper allegory is so cold he can barely speak to his twin, while the Mabel allegory is so emotional that they're ready to destroy the Earth just to see their twin again, while also being so angry they're ready to kill them. So it turns out that the author is actually Stanford Pines, an intelligent, experienced, but still arrogant scientist that wrote the journals, made the Mystery Shack, and has never even met his niece or nephew before. His coldness disappears for a moment as he meets his niece and nephew, but it comes back when he grills Stanley on the situation, about what's been happening in the years he's been gone. This episode is also really brilliant. It's super funny and an amazing change to the art, being in a normal coastal town. I won't go through this minute by minute, because I feel like I've been doing that way too much this video. The important parts are that they start how the twins are now, and as their positive traits grow to negatives, starting with Stan's caring and love, turning to being dependent and sabotaging, ruining Ford's chances at a wonderful school. And in that moment, he gets a few more flickers of emotions before he turns completely inwards, seeming to not care about the world or anyone around him, only filled with a cold determination to collect knowledge, much like what Dipper could be. We see the involvement of McDuckett and the creation of the Mystery Shack, the journals, and the machine, which is actually a portal to a different dimension. Apparently the weirdness of Gravity Falls isn't just being a cartoon or a fantasy story. Gravity Falls really has some special properties about it. The rest of the world is largely normal. So Stan, in the past, gets kicked out of his home because of what he cost his brother. Even though it was an accident, He was planning to do something, and he just did it on accident before he was sure. This is when Stan starts his career of owing money, being in prison and grifting people. He's been living in his car for years, and has been reliving that day over and over again. The day he lost the people he loved the most. But one day he gets a letter from Ford. Stan drops everything. Not that he had much to drop, but still, to go find his brother, his best friend, his closest family. When he arrives at the mystery shack, it's obvious that Ford has gone a little insane with only himself and monsters as company. Stan gets a flat greeting before Ford gives him a journal and tells him to leave with it, to hide and protect the journal for the rest of his life. After all of those years of Stan building this day up in his head, it all just crumbled away. They get into another fight. This is where the piece of the giant machine singes Stan's tattoo into his back, and they accidentally activate the machine, and Ford gets sucked through it. It happens so quickly it feels like a car crash. Stan is just left alone in the dark room. Stan spends the night in the mystery shack and spends enough time there mourning and trying to reactivate the machine he has to go into town to buy food. Which is where, to make money, he opens the house and restarted his life as a man of mystery. By day he was a phony tourist trap owner, but at night he collected technology, knowledge and power sources, all in an effort to get his brother back. Since Stan was a teenager to right now, when his niece and nephew are about to be teenagers, all he's ever done was search for his brother. Ford uses his technology to get rid of the police, and the story comes to an end, with Ford saying that Stan can stay for the summer to spend time with the kids, but at the end, he's getting his name, house, and life back from him. It adds a whole nother fear of the upcoming end of the show. We don't just have to worry about the twins now, but Stan and all the Mystery Shack employees too. As a large-scale tool for the twins' characters, the two Stans fill the same purpose as Gideon did in Season 1. They are the bad ending for the twins. But rather than being antagonists to the world like Gideon and having all of their character traits in one character, the two Stans have their traits split and a few shared, like their unyielding determination and quick thinking. But the two Stans are antagonists to each other. Gideon is like, what if the twins were bad people? And the two Stans are like, what if they were bad siblings, bad to each other? With how obvious the analogy is, it helps what the show is saying about how they split up and grew to resent each other be very powerful, because it's not hard for the audience to make that connection in our heads. The Two Stans episode really makes an effort to show how the twins splitting up is a very real possibility. Ford is the easier character to understand. He is Dipper, giving more power to his negative traits like his self-centered attitude, cold and uncaring mindset, while slowly growing out of his empathy and ability to override his negative traits. Stan and Ford have the same big event from their own perspectives, being stabbed in the back by their twin, their most trusted friend. Ford was ready to go to his dream school and had all of these dreams and fantasies only to be forced to settle for a school for regular people. This shows a real, unsolvable conflict. Imagine if Mabel listened to Dipper in relation to the big machine, and Stan broke down on the ground and then explained everything after. Do you think Mabel would be okay loving Dipper after that, if the destruction of the family was all on her shoulders? That's really all Ford exists to do after this. Demonstrate the bad ending of the show and an occasionally charming exposition machine. That's fine. That's a totally fine character, but, well, we'll talk about him when we have some more future examples. Stan is a much more complicated character to untangle. I suppose we should start with Ford. He loves Ford, maybe even more than the twins love each other. Could you imagine Mabel getting that big machine to work with no information or knowledge Dipper was alive on the other side? Maybe, but for what, like multiple decades? I don't know if she could. This heightened relationship that grows into dependence stems from the fact that Stanley seriously has no one else in his life. He is constantly told he's useless, he doesn't have a future, by everyone, especially his father, but never by his brother Stanford. His love turning to shallow resentment and then to regret and loss is very believable for him. Stan isn't necessarily super lovely and cheerful, but he is emotional. He's quick to anger, overprotective, and griefful, and grieving. He's a much more subtle bad ending for Mabel, since he doesn't have any of her negative traits, but is just further down the path she's walking. Or at least he doesn't have any of those traits naturally. I want to quickly touch on Stan's father and the lessons Stan learned from him. I say quickly because it never comes up as a concrete subject in any episode and is more in that one past segment, but it has built Stan into the person he is. I really think the show should have focused on his father more. Stan, in terms of representing the twins, is just as simple and effective as Ford, but in his role as a guardian, teacher, and stand-in parent to the twins and Soos, he's a little bit more complicated. So Stan's dad is pretty abusive, and obviously doesn't love his kids, really at all. The best example of this is that when Stan calls him being hard to impress, it seems like him not paying attention to his children at all. Like they wander into caves by themselves, Stan is forced to be in a wrestling class as the smallest kid in school, and when his father finally does take an interest, it's when Ford gets noticed by a fancy college. He says he's impressed, but not in a normal way. When he finds out that Stanley sabotaged him, he doesn't say that he ruined his brother's achievement, or his machine, or the family or something. He says that he's ruined his as in Stan's dad, not Ford's, meal ticket. His meal ticket. The first time we ever see him take an interest in his sons is when he can milk them for free food and money. We also get comments in the show from Stan about relationships. I think the most well-known one was when he's talking about taking girls to a scary movie so that they cuddle up on you, and he goes through the process of accidentally getting a girl pregnant while getting sadder and sadder. Obviously, Stan doesn't have any kids, so it's safe to say that this is a quote he's repeating from his father. Maybe Stan is really good at coping with this, saying that the wrestling club was somehow his dad looking out for him. And he only says this because he stopped mugging. If that event didn't randomly happen to frame the event, we'd call it something else. Second-hand abuse. The dad is just getting someone else to beat his kid, and I'd imagine that there was some first-hand physical abuse. Stan's dad looks pretty comfortable picking him up and throwing him around at the end of their last night together. My only complaint about Stan is that he just repeats this type of stuff with Dipper, and his excuse is the same he made up for his own father, that he's just toughening up, looking out for him, and that literally goes nowhere. Stan never reflects about his father, nor how he treats people because of it. That's not some big issue with Stan, it's just a lot of setup with no payoff. It really feels like Stan is two characters, the Mabel analogy and an abused kid that's built up his own family, and one of those characters gets a lot more attention while the other one is basically forgotten. It's sadly thematically accurate. I really like both Stans, and they only become more integral in the last quarter of the show as they both grow up with the main twins. One last thing I'd like to add on, I love dissecting how the show can control the audience's emotions so effectively, but with the two Stans, I'm actually still very curious on how they got me so invested in a relationship that is one episode old. I think that this was done by establishing the Stans as so similar as the main twin, so the relationship wasn't really just introduced, it's been there since episode 1, just with different characters. It's like an emotion transplant from the twins to the Stan. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if that's a real writing technique or if they just pulled something more subtle that I'm too ignorant to see. The investment in the Stans is the thing that fascinates me most about the show, honestly. I can't stop thinking about how they could have pulled this off. This episode actually gives me some serious whiplash. We went from two tearful and extremely impactful short films, basically, to this. I seriously have so little to say. We get to see some cool Ford technology like a squid, a taser glove, and an infinitely sided dice. A dice that when rolled could do literally anything. It is rolled and brings Dipper and Ford's favourite game to life. Dungeons, Dungeons, and more Dungeons. I'm not saying that dumb name anymore. Stan, Mabel, and Grenda, for some reason. Why isn't she Soos? They all hate D&D, but when it's brought to life, they have to play it to save Dipper and Ford's life. Mabel and Stan do play the game, but are shockingly opposed to it. Like, Stan, you just got Ford back. You think he'd be willing to give his life to save his twin, but he doesn't even want to play a dungeon game. The jokes are really where the episode lacks, honestly, and that's a big shame. I'd say this is the only episode that just isn't funny. At all. They're just the usual D&D is nerdy and has number, nerds don't eat healthy stuff, old-timey words sound weird. Like, it's just so plain, boring, and done to death. This is the opposite evil mirror version of Not What He Seems. This feels like another show, but due to a lack of quality. It's uncreative, unfunny, and has weird character writing that... Actually, you know what? Send Tata. I have, again, remarkably little to say. Ford is basically missing from the plot, somehow. The author of the journals is in the house and he's barely here. The whole intro is all about how little love or respect Stan gets, and I can see where that's coming from. The twins have had a break away from him, and Ford is really upset about what Stan's done, sure, and the story will even utilize Stan's sadness and unhappiness in a later story, but this episode's opening just feels so bad to watch. To see such a funny, likeable character after going through his darkest arc just being mocked by the plot. His pain not being taken seriously anymore, I think that's what feels so wrong. Stan's pain was serious 2 episodes ago, and is serious again by the end of this episode, but isn't here. The start and the middle, it's all just jokes. Stan is sick of his life kind of sucking, so he goes and runs for mayor. We get introduced to Tad Strange. Anyway, Bud Gleeful is running, and the Pines family think that he could be running in an effort to free Gideon. To stop Gideon's return, the main crew all begin to help Stan, and then give up and just go get one of Ford's inventions to mind control Stan, and Soos. This is way out of character, I think, especially for Mabel. While she can be selfish, she's never malicious. I don't think she'd ever laugh at Soos having a heart attack or anything like that. And then when Bud starts losing, Gideon mind controls him, and for some reason his mind control is portrayed as dark and evil, but the parallel between Gideon and the twins is just never touched on. Stan eventually finds out and makes sure to keep away from the kids, which I think should be portrayed as a lot darker than it is. Stan has just spent his whole life getting his brother back, but he doesn't want Stan back, and now the only 2 beams of light he has left just stabbed him in the back so hard. But again, it's never really touched on. So the twins, without hesitating, just mind control Soos. Again, we've already done this bit, who's already been shown to be especially bad at handling it, and they just puppet him and try to win, while Gideon is also the bad guy for controlling Bud. Blah blah blah. Gideon in an adult's body captures the twins and hooks them up to a bunch of dynamite. Stan gives up the election to save them and punches an eagle. Tyler Cute Biker, the town's local enthusiasm enthusiast, is now the mayor of the town. This episode is such a waste of time. If it happened in season 1, sure, it'd be fine, it'd be whatever. But the author is back. We have 6 episodes until the end of the show with so many mysteries left. The only thing that isn't outrageously out of character you'd need to know is that Gideon ends the episode by looking at a picture of Bill when he says that he's ready to make a deal. This was bad, Gravity Falls. This was really bad. I'm very disappointed. This episode is Gravity Falls in microcosm. If you focus on the right aspects of this episode, you could make it sound like a genuine masterpiece. I'm sure I could write about this episode to make it sound like that. But if I wanted to, I could make it sound so genuinely awful it would be worth considering skipping it. It's so tough to talk about it, and Gravity Falls in all because of this. The characters, narrative, and comedy are so different in quality, even minutes apart in the same episode. I can't call it bad. The Dipper plot, I can't call it good. The Mabel plot. So, we'll do Mabel plots first. Ford needs some unicorn hair and needs Mabel and a random assortment of other characters to find the unicorns. The unicorns say that they're impure and can't have the hair, so Mabel runs around and is the nicest person ever for a day. It's very Mabel to do that. After that, the other characters decide to drug the unicorn. In a scene that I've never found as funny as everyone else says it is, like, it's just Shrek, except it couldn't go as far as Shrek could. I don't think the cute thing doing something that isn't cute, it's just a joke that's been done to death. I don't think it's funny. It's down there with it's standing right behind me and a character saying something's about to happen and then something else happens. I just can't stand that joke.
What? Doth mine eyes deceive me?
Anyway, the unicorns wake up mid-drug and blame Mabel, so Wendy gives them this speech about how women are wild animals, end up free and can take whatever they want. You'd think that they would have drawn a parallel between Mabel trying to be perfect for the unicorns to Wendy trying to be perfect for her family, friends, school, society, whatever. But they don't. It's just random things happening for no reason. A few more unicorns show up and say that they don't like giving out their body parts for free and can't actually tell when someone's pure or not, so the girls murder them. Like, covered in blood, tear off their eyelashes and rip off their hair. Not nice calm murder with scissors, like a real tooth and claw murder. I don't even know what to say. It doesn't feel like Gravity Falls. It's a plot made out of worn out jokes, characters acting more randomly than the decay of the particles that make up their body, while also constantly introducing unneeded surface level themes, while also having no use for half the task. So what happened here? When I take a step back, I know the Dipper plot is just fine, like it's just pretty good, but every time we cut from the unicorns back to Dipper and Ford, it is just amazing. It feels so amazing to go back to Dipper and Ford after the Mabel plot. So, Ford's anxiety about Bill leads him to want to Bill-proof Dipper's mind, a procedure that he rudimentally performed on himself by sheeting his skull in metal. This leads to Ford falling asleep, probably because he's been overworking himself, and Dipper's thoughts in the mind machine convincing him to use it on Ford, to look into Ford's past, the author of the journal's path. Not what he says his past is, the real deal. No show has ever made me more excited and giddy for a reveal than this right here. Dipper sees Ford and Bill shaking hands, and Ford being possessed. Ford wakes up, revealing all of his Bill-related artifacts. Dipper actually fires a shot at Ford, and it ends up destroying one of the computers. Luckily, Ford can still show Dipper his eyes and prove that he's not possessed. Ford explains that the reason he has so much experience is because Bill tricked him before. While he was struggling with his research, he summoned Bill. Bill, playing the oldest devil allegory card in the world, revealed where and how Ford will die, and then said he's the most special, amazing person in the universe. That will truly always be one of the best scenes from any show, movie, or game ever. The formation, destruction, explanation, and strengthening of the Dipper and Ford pairing and parallel is just masterful. I think the audience is meant to draw comparisons to when Bill tricked Dipper with the laptop. They really are the same person. This also aids in the idea of Dipper and Mabel growing at different rates, as now with all this information, Dipper has been pushed to grow up faster and faster. So yeah, the girls show up covered in blood and body parts with all the stuff they stole, and Ford says that they're all amazing people. A joke really could have been made about how heartless Ford is and why Dipper growing up to him is such a bad idea. Remember, he just sent his niece and a few strangers to deal with magical creatures, fully aware of how dangerous any amount of weirdness can be. But whatever, the episode was running out of time, Stan swoops in at the end for a good joke. I think this episode is very confused. It could have been the best episode of the entire show, but is really let down by Mabel's empty feeling, heartless Wendy having but still kind of funny half of the episode. Soos is funny. I don't get it though, the whole thing of anything here. So this is meant to be the last breath of fresh air, the calm before the storm, as we enter the finale of the series. It is missing Ford, but don't worry, we have Mabel's friends here to eat up the screen time, with a prime feature of Candy, who now has a crush on Dipper. Finally, a love interest worse than Wendy. This is our last chance to enjoy the summer with the characters we love, and this episode does do that decently well, as Stan takes his grandkids and assorted secondary cast members to take revenge on all the other people who own tourist traps in the area. The kids get to play with big balls of string, corn mazes, and upside down house in all really fun ways. But the main core of the episode is Dipper finally, for what must be the 100th time now, gives up on pursuing Wendy. And Stan gives him advice to kind of just ask a lot of people out and then ditch them as like dating practice. And then Candy admits her apparent affection for Dipper, so Mabel and Brenda try to play matchmakers. So anyway, there's also a Spider-Woman. Not Spider-Woman, but a woman spider, that flips the script and lures Stan into her web. For no reason at all, every girl Dipper has practiced dating with shows up and all confront him at once at this final destination that they're at. So then they leave to save Stan, and Candy saves the day because she likes to read, and now also doesn't like Dipper. What a genuine mess of an episode. Not one of those plot points has anything to do with any of the others. It's so heavy-handed and obnoxious with its message, but I still feel like it messes it up. Don't practice or play with anyone's emotions. And then they demonstrate why you shouldn't do that, with the Spider Lady doing the same to Stan. But it's always felt more like, don't get caught manipulating and hurting people. And then there's also a spider for some reason. The Spider Lady has a single line about how many pickup artists she meets every day, and it's actually her in control, and then Dipper is called out for what he did to the girls. But at the end, Stan just says sometimes it's bad and they'll get their heads bitten off. You know, when the women fight back and stand up for themselves? Like, how dare they? So obviously Stan doesn't plan to stop and is just gonna make sure to pick easier targets. I think this would have worked a lot better with a much more cohesive theme if the Spider Lady was actually attacking Dipper and she was disguised as someone he had hit on. So it's a retaliation to what Dipper has already done and not her instigating the conflict. The Spider Lady, I want to say, is meant to be what Dipper and Stan appear to be to women they hit on, but also she's self-aware of it. She really does not come off like a parallel to them. She comes off like a woman that's retaliating to people like Stan, very self-awarely. Candy should also have been there when Stan or Dipper or whoever is attacked, and she can kind of realize what's happening, and Candy can save the day by being emotionally mature and making a real connection with someone, as opposed to what Dipper and Stan are doing. Candy should have also left Dipper for him being so arrogant and self-centered. Like, he literally could not think about other people, but it's some joke about how high-pitched his scream is, or whatever at the end. That idea isn't a full episode or anything, but when you create something, you have to pick a theme and have everything tie into it. All I'm trying to demonstrate with all my hypotheticals is that all of the characters' plots accomplish different things and sometimes contradict each other's. That's a really bad place for an episode to be in. It's a really disappointing finish to the last normal, big quotes, episode of Gravity Falls. It's a very confusing episode, and it makes it really confusing to talk about, and to be honest, this video has gone on for way too long already, and this episode just isn't worth any more time discussing or untangling. It's a bad episode. This episode is about the future, obviously, but it's about everyone being excited for the future. Dipper wanting to skip the present and just go straight to it, being so focused on the future he hurts himself in the present. Mabel at first strikes a good balance of enjoying the present and being excited for the future, but what tips her balance is how careless and easily she assumes everything will just work out. This again draws a parallel between the twins and the Stans. We can see how their mentalities will lead them to becoming the Stans. This is brought into focus when Dipper is taken out on a research expedition with Ford. That's really brilliant, and I do love that, but it's so strange to me that at the start, after Dipper and Ford leave to go do research, that Mabel doesn't come downstairs disappointed she'll have to plan their birthday and high school and all the future stuff by herself. And then Grunkle Stan is like, "Oh, it's alright, Pumpkin, I'll drive you around." I feel like the journey that Dipper will take to become Ford is obvious, but Mabel and Stan need some more time dealing with each other. I'm getting ahead of myself, but this episode is all about Dipper's choice to either go with Ford to be a scientist or to stay with Mabel, and Mabel dealing with the anxiety about what he could say at the end of the day. Wouldn't it have been great if Stan was with Mabel all day, projecting onto her, putting his obsession with his brother onto her to the point where it becomes toxic? And it's like he's almost trying to make her dependent on her brother because Stan just thinks that if he loved him more, somehow needed his own brother just a bit more, he could have stayed with him. So while Dipper and Ford get this whole episode, plus Dipper's relationship with the journal and a few other episodes where Dipper and Ford get paired up, all Stan and Mabel get is a single exchange right at the end of this episode, which is beautiful. It's such a deeply touching scene, but it's just not enough. And in a weird way, until a little further into the finale, I'd say that Mabel is too good of a person to sabotage her brother and break up the family and all the stuff the Stans did. I love Mabel and her character arc, but it just needed more time. So the half with Dipper and Ford is a lot of fun, a ridiculous amount of fun, a purposeful amount of fun. Like I said, Mabel's half with her friends leaving her and all of her dreams about her future future not being real. Mabel's half is deeply planted in reality, and I think this was done on purpose to contrast with Dipper's side of the story and try to get the audience on his side about his fantasies of the future. Dipper's story is fantastical, with whimsical discoveries and funny jokes. He gets to prove himself a hero, to stand tall against aliens and the future of normality. Dipper gets the final component to the device that will keep Bill out of their reality. Ford really does purposely tempt him, telling him he'd be wasted with his family, and that he should come work for him. If you take a step back and really think about what he's telling this 12-year-old little boy, it's kind of vile, it's kind of gross, to totally separate him from his family and work for Ford for the rest of his life. Dipper is obviously taken over by living out his fantasies and wants to work with Ford. Mabel has just lost her very last piece of armor against the world. Her normalcy and safety is gone. She loses it and blows up at Dipper, and then grabs her backpack as she runs outside. The whole ending scene of Stan talking to Mabel and then Mabel and Dipper fighting is so heartbreaking, but so beautifully directed and animated. Mabel runs into the woods only to find out that she accidentally grabbed Dipper's backpack. This is when the plot point of Bill's cipher finding a new puppet is paid off. Blendin shows up and tries to strike a deal with Mabel in exchange for the thing Dipper and Ford got that day. Not that Mabel knows what it is. With it, he says, he can create a time bubble so that she can enjoy summer forever. The instant he holds the device, Bill drops the act and shows his eyes to reveal that he's been inside Blendin this whole time, smashing the device and bringing us into Weirdmageddon.
The day has come! The world is finally mine! What's going on? What is that?
We're too late. It's the end of the world.
Let's tackle Weirdmageddon in two halves. It was originally aired as 3 episodes, but on Disney Plus it's 4 episodes, and I actually recommend watching it as, and thinking of it as the 4, because the last 2 have their own self-contained 3-act structures that fit into the larger Weirdmageddon 3-act structure pretty well. And also on the last episode, we get to hear Soos giving a recap, and I really enjoyed it. So straight away, the family is split up, and that's a big deal. Never once has a character been totally alone, but Dipper's alone, and Mabel is missing. We get a big introduction from Bill as he lets in a heap of his friends from the weird dimension. Really quite quickly, Dipper and Ford meet up, and Ford has an anti-Bill gun. Bill begins to weirtify Gravity Falls, removing the sense from things and changing the rules of the world at random. Dipper and Ford are in a position to kill Bill, since now he's a physical being, so Bill is a god, basically. But he's still tangible and killable. A bit of random weirdness stops this from working in a scene that starts as a joke but quickly gets intensely serious. Ford gets defeated and turned into a statue by Bill. And as just a bit of extra pain, the journals that have been so iconic and interesting and easy to get attached to are destroyed by Bill. Reminiscent of the last season finale, Bill questions Dipper's worth without it, but Dipper doesn't waver here. He can't do much, but he can try. Dipper, for the first time in a long time, has felt before he thought. Bill leaves Dipper. Dipper tries his best, but he doesn't stand a chance. Bill leaves Dipper to be eaten alive. We get a quick run through of the weirdified town as Dipper escapes. I love this Dipper alone segment. No Mabel, no journals, no Ford, no tools. Dipper is at his weakest and Bill is at his strongest. It's so effective at drawing the audience in. I couldn't wait to see what happens next. So 6 seconds later, Dipper's no longer alone because Wendy's here now. The rest of this first episode is very oddly paced. Time Baby and all the Time Police show up and Bill destroys them in less than a minute, and then Gideon returns as Bill's horseman of the apocalypse in a Mad Max type deal. And they all just drive towards what they think may have Mabel in it, and that lasts for like 5 minutes. There's really cool art style switch ups as they drive through the weirdness bubbles and even a live action segment. It's really impressive that they could do all this on just a regular TV budget, but it's just mindless action and cool animation. Gideon confirms that Mabel is in that giant bubble we've been driving towards, and then out of nowhere, Soos shows up. Gideon catches them, and then again, within like 30 seconds, he's done a total flip of his character. Dipper tells him that he should be a good guy, and Mabel likes good guys, and that being good is good for good guys. He went from I will kill anyone to have Mabel order myself, and he will wait till the end of time to get her to love him, to he's ready to kill himself just so that she can smile and be good for good guys. I know I'm the world's #1 Wendy hater, but seriously, the instant it showed up, it went downhill. The second half of this episode is a real mess, and that's really, well, sad. It's the finale to Gravity Falls. I was hoping that none of it would be messy. So Time Baby is dead, Dipper, Wendy, and Soos are all about to enter Mabel's bubble, and Gideon is distracting Bill's minions for the gang. Yes, Gideon went from keeping Mabel captive until Stockholm Syndrome sets in, to killing himself for her freedom in the span of one sentence. From Dipper, who he in no way respects or admires. The next episode is all about Mabel, and I've been waiting the whole show for this. It's actually a really simple episode, but I love it. The bubble, Mabel's prison, was made by Bill. Whoever enters it has their deepest wishes made into a reality, but only inside of that bubble. This also goes to show that while Bill is a Monty's Paw type of wish granter, he does actually grant them. It's a prison, but also exactly what Mabel wanted. She even has her own uber supportive and radical Dipper to keep her company forever. Dippy Fresh. I hate Dippy Fresh. The gang gets split up, lured in deeper by their fantasies before they can all come together for a big Dipper speech, where he explains that while reality is hard, it is surmountable, together. In the real world, the challenges are real, but so is the love, friendship, and bonds that those challenges create. Here Dipper confirms that while he was excited to go adventuring with Ford, he'd much rather make his own adventure with Mabel. And then the episode ends with a few cartoon characters made self-aware and forced to be sentient halfway through the apocalypse. Feel bad for them. All the new characters and sets are so much fun, especially since, oddly enough, most of them have been foreshadowed in Mabel's daydreaming. It's the only show that felt the need to foreshadow a sentient waffle. One teensy tiny issue I have with this episode, shock of all shocks, get ready to pick your jaw up off the ground, is Wendy. Do you want to guess what her deep, character-defining wish was? Soos was meeting his father, Dipper was meeting a Wendy the same age as him, but he broke out of that, so I guess his only real wish was saving his sister. Guess Wendy's. Vandalizing her school with her friends. Wow. She really is a unique teenage character. There's no one else like her. Even now, one episode away from the final episode, Wendy's character traits have not evolved beyond being a teenage girl and cool. I am stunned they gave her the lines she even had in this episode. If she added something, and not even something deep or eye-opening, something funny, something expositional, actually be a love interest, actually want something. But no, she is still a plastic bag floating wherever the wind pushes her. Maybe the bag has a pretty face drawn onto it and Dipper chases it, but that's not a character. Wendy's lack of quality stands out like a sore thumb, especially when something as pathetic as wanting to go spray paint a wall with her friends is in the same episode as Mabel's bubble. And in case you haven't seen the show but have also made it this far into the video, hi, by the way. It's not like her friends are dead or anything that she knows. She hasn't just graduated high school and is already missing the good old days during a parallel to Mabel. She hasn't vandalized something in 24 hours. That's it. That's the entire motivation. 2 seasons have built up to this. I kind of ruined the transition. I just can't keep the Wendy hate inside of me. But I wanted to say was that it's time to talk about the absolute near perfection that is Mabel. Mabel is one of the most controversial characters. She gets a lot of hate from the community, and to be honest, once upon a time, I got why. I understand that we follow Dipper, and because of the audience spending more time with him, we're more likely to just automatically assume he's in the right and embed ourselves in that idea. But when you take a step back and look at all the things Mabel has done, no one has done as much as her. She has saved more lives, mended more hearts, and brought more joy than any other character. And that may occasionally get in the way of Dipper ogling Wendy in a bathing suit, but I still think that saving Mamando's life was way more important. Mabel is a kid. Mabel is one of the best written kids in anything. She can be smug and rude without it taking over her whole character. She can be emotionally driven without being a pushover. Her interest can change quickly but not randomly. And don't let all those middle of the road descriptions fool you. While she is written very realistically, she's held together by one thing that constantly motivates her. Very similar to Dipper, it's her anxiety. Mabel is young, defenseless, and afraid. She's afraid of letting go of love and it never coming back, of letting other people outgrow her, of being left behind and pain of not having any connections in her life. Mabel is afraid of being alone more than anything. I think that's what really woke her up and made her leave the bubble at the end. Dipper made it obvious that what was so monkey paw about her wish was that she was surrounded by perfect friends, but was still alone. You need those imperfections and humanity for love to be real. Mabel has spent her whole life searching for that perfect love, the boy band, merman, puppeteer, Gideon, and a whole bunch of other people, only for her to realize that it doesn't exist. The future comes, people leave, people grow, she grows to hate people, but you'll never be alone. I think realizing how deep Mabel's fear runs helps her connection with Stan's arc. It was his fear that drove him to destroy his family, and it was also Mabel's fear that led her to destroying the world almost. The only difference is, ironically, these two 12-year-olds being more mature than those two 60-year-old men. Mabel feels so complicated, but is easy and simple to put into words because of her representation in the show, with her most positive traits being put into opposition to Dipper's. Let's talk about the mermaid episode briefly. Mabel is literally just trying to save someone's life. Maybe she's doing it to get love in return because she really does need it, or maybe she's doing it because she really is just that kind person to break and enter for a stranger. But because Dipper is our perspective character and gets the full episode to explain his half, I don't have to put a maybe in his motivation. It's to have a chance at Wendy because the temptation of something he can't have motivates him, just like with all the knowledge he's been seeking. Mabel, on the other hand, needs the maybe in her motivation, despite being objectively in the right, because she gets comedy-centric cutaways for maybe a quarter of the time Dipper gets. Mabel is an exceedingly well-written and relatable character, but she's hurt by the fact she's the secondary protagonist behind Dipper. Pretend any episode is from Mabel's perspective. Really, just go watch the Mabel scenes, and then when the conflict happens between the twins at the end, and you'll see what I mean. Mabel is the best character in the show, but it's just a show that doesn't really want to give her the time of day. It's really sad to see. If Mabel could have had equal screen presence as Dipper, with each episode having equal time between them, she wouldn't get as much hate as she does. I think she would be the fan favorite character. It is a real shame to see how she got treated. So after having my heart grow 2 sizes at the end of the last episode, we are thrown into the real endgame. And it's hard to describe most of the first half since it's largely just comedic and sweet moments with all the characters we've met before. The twins, Soos and Wendy, all meet up at the mystery shack with Stan, who's made himself mayor of the remaining, big quotes, normal citizens, all hauled up behind the magic force field Ford made. We see Stan's perspective of when Weirdmageddon hit, and Stan in the finale is just off. He is outrageously self-centered and gag-driven, I guess. When Weirdmageddon hit, instead of Stan freaking out and looking for his grandkids or brother, we see a joke about how big the goat is and how Stan is a coward of the goat, but then in the present, Stan is just hunkering down and abusing the citizens. Why? He can be abusive. Again, this is when his father might have come back up, but he should be totally orientated around his family. Have him holding all the food and safety hostage and sending out citizens into the dangerous weirdness to look for the twins and Ford. Have him using junk, pieces of the mystery shack, the citizens' belongings to make breadcrumb trails back to the shack. And I feel Stan being the one to try and stop progress here, to say, no, don't fight Bill, don't be a hero, we're safe now, we shouldn't change anything. I believe that, I totally get that for him, except it's framed as him keeping himself safe, instead of keeping his family safe. We should have a Mr. Incredible moment where the twins start coming up with the idea to fight Bill, and he puts a stop to it immediately, and says that he's just not strong enough to let them fight. But he's just more jealous that someone else is getting attention when they make the plan. That's just ridiculous. This is not the same man that fought a zombie horde or spent decades trying to save his brother. I think that this stems from Ford not being around after he was introduced very much. It feels like Ford constantly being loved and undermining Stan was meant to push Stan into holding on to this tiny bit of respect and power he got in the apocalypse. But again, the maybe just isn't good enough. Like with Mabel's character, if it's not shown, I can't really give that much credit. Stan is a little grumpy in the election episode, and that's it. Is that meant to be his character arc that totally flips what he values? Remember earlier when I was talking about how a character is like a deck of cards, and a relationship of any kind is like shuffling 2 decks and making them into a house of cards, or whatever I said? Stan's deck right here just got changed halfway through the game, and that really does ruin the game. Stan being actually deeply self-serving is a piece of paper that the author just scribbled on and done so hastily that it's torn the paper. It's not a real card, and everyone saw them cheating to slip it into the deck. When you try to mix one of those proxy fake cards into the house of cards, the whole house crumbles because it's just not strong enough to keep building a relationship on. For a good character or relationship to work, every card that builds that deck needs to be thematically coherent, certified with showing instead of telling, along with being put into the deck before you begin the game, with a purpose to serve. The twins make a plan. Stan tries to say no, but then no one listens to him and does the plan anyway. Awesome, that was so worth changing up Stan's character. Mabel made sweaters for everyone, Soos and McDuckett watch Gundam as inspiration for their super secret plan, and we finally get to see what's happening to Ford. He's Bill's favorite doll, for a while at least, and then Bill tries to leave and spread his weirdness all over the globe. He hits a mysterious force field. Unable to pass, Bill reawakens Ford out of the statue. Ford is locked in magic chains in a room of living flesh as Bill plays We'll Meet Again on a piano. Ford kinda mumbles about how the town's natural weirdness might work like a magnet for other weirdness, so Bill can't go very far. So we get straight into it with Bill electrocuting him, hoping that he'll tell him how to break out of the magnetism. But without Ford breaking, Bill gets to thinking of other ideas to torture him. But back to the plan. What plan have the twins had? What could it possibly be? What could defeat a god? What could save the entire world when all they have is an old house? How could you not realize? How could you not know? The Mystery Shack has been made into a giant robot with a T-Rex hand and a heavy metal cover of the main theme, for extra power, of course. It's like objectively dumb, but it's still so amazing. The realist characters are so good at getting an audience so invested that the show can get away with, on paper, insane things like this. Because an audience will be feeling too much to stop and think, the show has done its work of getting me invested and to care about its characters that it can let loose and just have fun with the narrative side of its storytelling. The Shack bot shoots out strike teams of children and old men at Bill's castle. Bill has had enough of his minions fighting the Shack and decides to fight it himself. It's like a metaphor for how he destroyed their home, but the memory of it is protecting it. Very clever, very cheeky. But when the group begins to fight and split up, Bill can finally beat it.
Hey, Achilles! Nice work with the heel!
One of my favorite lines in any show ever. I love it. Such a good delivery too. He really does sound like he's just losing it, but insane in a murderous happy way. So now that that fight is finishing up and Bill has started winning, we're put into the drama creating ticking clock. Gideon, who's been in a cage this whole time, tells the gang how to destroy Bill's chair and release the townspeople. Ford is also apparently back on the chair, and this also releases him, even though he was petrified by Bill and not the eye bats like everyone else, and wasn't part of the chair really. But whatever, everyone is reunited, especially the 2 police officers who are more precious than ever. They should have kissed, but it's okay, whatever. A tearful cuddle is fine. Ford and Duckett get a quick but still good, satisfying reunion before Ford begins to save the day. Ford recreates the summoning circle of Bill, and if somehow they can fill it with people that match the symbolism of the symbols, it'll help. So the cast steps into their roles in the circle. Some are super surface level, like Stan's hat is a symbol, Pacifica's random sweater is a symbol, and I know that they said llamas are nature's warriors, but it's not like Pacifica has been much of a warrior in the past few episodes. Like, Robbie's broken heart is a symbol because he had one episode about heartbreak. Dipper's is the pine tree because trees can hide and have mysteries in them. And some are super thrown together. Wendy's is ice because she's cool, like ice. The past few minutes of the episode have been super lazy, honestly. Ford is magically saved for no reason. The summoning circle works in reverse conveniently, and obviously the symbols that have had the entire show to be built up to are pretty iffy. Another little bit of laziness tacked on. Ford tells everyone else to leave, and then they do, from an impenetrable floating pyramid. They just walk to the ground, I guess. Now get ready to genuinely this time pit your jaw up off the floor, because Stan and Ford get into a ridiculous and stupid fight over grammar that causes the whole thing to be useless. And now Bill's had enough time to win the fight and get back to the pyramid, catching them and turning everyone but the main twin pair of twins into actual, curtains, probably made out of their skin. The whole cast just died. Soos is dead now. Bill puts Dipper and Mabel into a cage and bargains with Ford. The secret to take over the world for the kids' lives. So all that lazy and thrown together storytelling was just for a fake out. Bill's gonna do this anyway, and that's good because it doesn't really matter, because in the end all the bad writing got cut short and we're, back to square one. It was still really poor writing for Gravity Falls standard anyway. In fairness, in most other shows I would not have really batted an eye at those kind of issues. Characters disappearing, plot points being resolved instantly for no reason, and brand new concepts being introduced seconds before being paid off. If that was in the newest Marvel show, I'd go, wow, they're really improving. But for Gravity Falls, this just isn't it. It's a shame Gravity Falls has come so far and did so well, only to stumble a few times right in the second last episode. But anyway, back to the usually flawless writing of Gravity Falls. Mabel and Dipper, working together and thinking fast, escape Bill's trap and run, telling their gruntles to trust them. They've got each other's backs. Bill puts the Stans into the same cage and gives us another killer line.
What? No! It's too dangerous!
Not so fast! You two wait here! I've got some children I need to make into corpses!
See you real soon!
No!
Bill chasing the twins is the most impressive sequence of the entire show. Running through Bill's castle, we see so many amazingly done angles and perspectives, shape-shifting and different backgrounds. We get some time with Stan and Ford as they reflect on how they possibly could have grown so far apart, being closer than Dipper and Mabel at one point, but now being so filled with bitterness they couldn't even hold hands. This inspires them. They begin making a plan. The only idea they had was to offer up Ford's mind and then erase it. But because of his metal skull implant, it just couldn't work. So the only option left now is to actually just make the deal with Bill. Bill catches the kids, and as he does, we get to see the townsfolk on the ground, somehow, being picked off by Bill's hench minions. I understand that the people on the ground are meant to be the pilots of the Mystery Shack, but Sheriff Blubbs is there, so obviously the people from the pyramid got to the ground. And again, I repeat myself, somehow they got down there. We get to see Bill about to literally squish the twins into jelly one by one until Ford agrees to make the deal. Unfortunately, we don't get to see any Dipper jelly before Ford caves. There is, when it happens, the point where the characters are brought full circle, and the reason the show is so loved and easy to enjoy despite its flaws are made obvious. The character work in the defeat of Bill Cipher is some of the most tear-inducing stuff. Not like a weepy or single tear, like Man of Steel screaming and crying, snotty nose, ugly crying. So Bill shows up in the mindscape and is impressed by how calm and collected it is given the situation. This is the mind of someone who wants what's about to happen. We see the greatest grifter in the world sitting inside. We're actually inside of Stan's mind. On the outside, Ford begins taking off his brother's hat and sets his memory gun to erase literally everything, essentially killing Stan but taking Bill with him.
No!
Oh yeah, you're going down, Bill. You're getting erased. Memory gun. Pretty clever, huh?
You idiot! Don't you realize you're destroying your own mind too?
It's not like I was using this space for much anyway.
Let me out of here! Let me out! Why isn't this working?
Hey, look at me. Turn around and look at me, you one-eyed demon. You're a real wise guy, but you made one fatal mistake. You messed with my family.
You're making a mistake. I'll give you anything. Money, fame, riches, infinite power, your own galaxy, please. No! What's happening to me?
Guess I was good for something after all.
It's so genuinely superb and well executed. Nothing I've watched has a more satisfying villain defeat than Stan destroying Bill and taking one last look at his family. His final line of, "I guess I was finally good for something," goes a long way in explaining his behavior in the last few episodes. His need for family slowly turned into a bitterness at not getting it. In his mind, he saved his brother. He is now owed love, and after his grandkids and brother were taken away, it fermented into real anger. There's a fine line between desire and hate. Stan is angry at himself more than anyone else because he probably can't figure out what he did wrong. He knows that he broke his family apart and spent his whole life trying to build back, but he also had his whole life to build up fantasies about it. Every day surrounded by reminders of his brother. Ford coming back and not wanting anything to do with Stanley broke something in him after all these years. His hope. But in his last moment, he knew what he wanted was right in front of him the whole time, and got a moment of bliss to realize that he's had a pretty good life with a family that loves him just as much as he loves them, something he'd die for, happily. I've never had a super firm grasp on Stan's character, and at the end of the day, this is just my interpretation, but I think that's pretty good. It's no 4.5-hour video about one episode, but I'm happy with thinking of Stan like that. I find his story to be pretty relatable. After Bill's defeat and all the weirdness returns to its own dimension, including the good guys too, the townspeople are left confused and disorientated, but no one more so than Stan. As I said, he's dead. He's moving and looking around and has all of his senses, but he doesn't remember his grandkids or his brother. It's so horribly tragic that after working through his problems with Ford and realizing how much he actually truly loves his grandkids, he is now unable to even recognize them. It's even worse than just him dying, honestly. It really hurts. They take him back home to the ruins of the Mystery Shack, with Waddles, Soos, and the goat all there too. It's really hard seeing everything in the state that it is. I always cry when Stan loses himself, and then when Mabel realizes what's actually happened, it's such a massive 1-2 punch of sadness. We get to see another great payoff to something any other show would have just not even bothered setting up. Mabel doesn't lose her hope, and gets her scrapbook she's been making and shows it to Stan, in hopes of finding her gruntle again. And of course, after enough memories, Stan slowly begins to come back. Leaving on a cheery note, we get some time around town with all the side characters with a few good jokes, before we go to the 13th birthday of Dipper and Mabel, with the whole town in attendance, including a fully recovered Stan. I don't mind the fact that he got his memory back at all. He still made the sacrifice and got the character development. I'm all for such a lovable character getting a reward at the end of the story, especially if it's an internal, character-related reward. There's a very unlike Gravity Falls cutaway joke here. It's not that funny and kind of slows down the scene, but it's okay. It's short. It's a very short joke. There's some very fast but charming and fun plot wrapping up as Ford invites Stan on a big weird adventure to the ocean, and without anyone to run the Mystery Shack, it's entrusted to Soos to own, becoming the new man of mystery. We're given one last moment with the main cast as Dipper and Wendy exchange hats, Mabel says goodbye to her friends, and the Stans threaten to maim a bus driver. After one last teary hug, the twins get on the bus, reassuring themselves that it'll be okay, they've got each other. The bus takes off, and the rest of the cast try to chase it. Oh, don't do that. It's just gonna make me feel sad for longer. There's a little slideshow of things like Soos running the Mystery Shack with his girlfriend. Love that. The Stans adventuring all on their own. Love that even more. And a heap of Polaroids that Mabel's been taking throughout the show. It's absolutely insane that from halfway through the last episode, I didn't really stop being at least teary-eyed. The ending really feels like a goodbye. Saying goodbye to Gravity Falls is so hard and so painful for the same reason it was such a joy to spend a valuable batch of episodes in it. The X factor that this show has that so many don't have is its characters. No show has such likable, charming, endearing, enthralling, and realistic characters. Looking at how long I've been talking, how much of that has just been about the characters, how they talk, how they act, and what they want. From abusive parents, deals with the devil, and silly pig costumes, Gravity Falls never once wasted an opportunity to characterize their characters. Dipper never stops acting like Dipper. Soos is never not Soos, and that goes for every single other character. The depth and consistency of a character makes them feel real, and allows their story to have an effect on you. But when that level of quality is applied to an entire cast of town, it makes it all feel real. It's possible that another show will have this ability to affect someone like Gravity Falls one day, and there are other shows that come close, but right now, Gravity Falls is so special and so valuable because of how amazingly the characters are written. We, myself and you, are so lucky to be born at the same time that Gravity Falls exists. And if we take a quick look over at the Odebepin poem, you'll see that Gravity Falls is firmly at the top of my extensive list. It is such a treat. Remember to give me money on Patreon, like, subscribe, tickle my balls.